The colony of Orelise 9 was quiet most days. It was far from Earth, built on a world that was both beautiful and lonely. The sky glowed with 2 suns during the day, and at night, bright green lights shimmered across the horizon. People came to Orelise 9 to work in the research stations or mining fields, but few called it home. The wind carried the sound of machines more often than the sound of laughter. Lily Hart lived in a small metal house near the colony's communication center. She was 23 years old, thin and pale, with sharp gray eyes that noticed everything. She had been paralyzed from the waist down since a transport accident when she was a child. She used a hover wheelchair that moved quietly across the floor, and she had learned to make it an extension of herself. Though her body was limited, her mind reached places no one else dared to go. Lily worked as a data linguist, which meant she spent her days listening to sounds from space. The colony received signals from nearby moons, drifting satellites, and sometimes strange echoes from deep space. Her job was to decode them and find patterns, messages, warnings, or something new. Most of the time it was nothing but static, but Lily liked it that way. The quiet gave her peace. She didn't talk to many people. Most of the colonists were busy with their own work, and some looked at her with pity. Lily didn't want pity. She wanted purpose. Her only real friend was Ethan Cole, a young engineer who fixed drones and machines around the colony. He had a messy head of blonde hair and always smelled faintly of oil. Ethan often stopped by her workspace with a grin and a snack from the cafeteria. "You ever sleep, Lily?" he asked one evening, leaning against the wall while she stared at her screen filled with strange sound waves. "Sometimes," she said, without looking up. "But signals don't wait for sleep." He chuckled. "One day you'll find aliens just by refusing to take a nap. I'll let you know when that happens," she said softly. That night, after Ethan left, Lily stayed up late, listening to the hum of the receivers. Her screen flickered with soft blue light. She sipped cold tea and watched as the patterns shifted. Then something strange appeared. A faint sound came through the speakers. A voice. Not human, not robotic, but something in between. It was soft, broken, and repeated the same word again and again. "Help, help, help." Lily's heart began to race. She leaned closer, adjusting the filters. The signal was old, buried under layers of distortion. It wasn't coming from space above, it was coming from below the colony. That made no sense. The underground was supposed to be solid rock, with only the colony's foundations and old tunnels from early construction. She recorded the signal and ran it through translation software. The word remained the same. Help. Sometimes the tone shifted like someone or something was in pain. For the next hour, Lily traced the source. The signal came from several hundred meters below her station. Her curiosity grew stronger than her fear. She opened the colony's geological database, searching for any records of tunnels or caverns that deep. The files were restricted, but she knew how to get around that. A few quick commands and the system opened its hidden maps. What she saw made her shiver. There was a chamber below the old mining area, marked as Sealed Zone 04. No one had been there in decades. The logs said it was closed after a collapse. But the signal was coming from that exact place. And it was still active. Lily stared at the screen for a long time. Maybe it was just an old echo, she thought. Maybe the rocks were bouncing signals from a damaged beacon. But in her heart, she knew this was different. There was emotion in that voice. It wasn't just data, it was a cry. She tried to sleep, but her mind kept returning to the sound. Help. The word followed her even into her dreams. She saw flashes of metal, chains, and something large moving in the dark. When she woke, her tea was cold, and the lights of Orelise 9 were dim. The next morning, Ethan came by again. "You look like you saw a ghost," he said. "Maybe I did," she replied. "Or something worse." He frowned. "What did you find?" "I'm not sure yet," she said quietly. "But I think someone or something is calling for help from underground." Ethan blinked. "Underground? That's impossible." "Maybe," Lily said, "but I'm going to find out." Ethan sighed, shaking his head. "You always find trouble." "Maybe trouble finds me," she answered, a small smile forming on her lips. When Ethan left, Lily turned back to her screen. The signal was still there, faint but steady. The word echoed once more, help. She didn't know what waited beneath the colony, but she knew she couldn't ignore it. She had spent her whole life feeling trapped in her own body. Now something else was trapped too, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a purpose burning inside her. Outside, the wind swept across the silent plains of Paralyzed 9, whispering through the metal towers. Somewhere deep below, a creature cried out in the dark, and a girl in a chair decided she would answer. Lily did not forget the signal. It stayed with her every minute of the day. Even when she worked on her regular tasks, her thoughts kept going back to that strange voice that had called for help. She checked the recordings again and again, each time hearing something new in the tone, sadness, pain, and a strange kind of patience, like it had been calling for a very long time. That evening, after the colony's lights dimmed for rest hours, she returned to her desk. She put on her headset and opened the signal log. The voice still whispered through the static, soft and broken. Lily adjusted the sound filters until the background noise cleared. The word became sharper. Help. Please help. Her skin tingled. This was no glitch. Someone or something was alive down there. But how? The underground levels were supposed to be abandoned. The colony records said the mines were sealed years ago because of a gas leak and unstable tunnels. Lily wanted answers. She opened the geological archives again, bypassing the safety locks using her personal code. She had learned to bend the rules a little. It was the only way to get to the truth. The maps showed layers of tunnels stretching far below the colony, much deeper than what was publicly known. The lowest level was marked with a red warning, Unstable Zone. Do not enter. She zoomed in on the area marked as Sealed Zone 04. The signal was coming from the center of that red-marked area. A faint chill ran through her as she looked at the screen. She imagined dark stone halls, silent for decades, and something trapped inside, waiting for someone to hear it. She needed help. She couldn't go underground alone. She called Ethan. When he arrived, she turned her screen toward him. Look at this, she said. Ethan rubbed his tired eyes. You're still on that weird signal? It's not weird, Ethan. It's real. It's coming from under the colony. He frowned. Underground? That place is sealed off. You know that. I know, Lily said. But something's down there. I can feel it. And it's asking for help. He sighed. You always find the strange stuff, don't you? This one's different, she said. Please, just listen. She played the recording. The voice filled the room. Faint, distorted, but unmistakably alive. Ethan's expression changed from annoyance to concern. That's creepy, he said softly. Sounds like someone crying. I think it's an intelligent being, Lily said. Maybe even alien. He raised an eyebrow. An alien under the colony? Lily, come on. But her eyes didn't waver. Ethan, if it was just noise, I wouldn't care. But this is a voice. It's been trapped down there for who knows how long. Ethan hesitated. He had seen that look in her eyes before, the one that said she wouldn't stop until she found the truth. All right, he said finally. Let's say you're right. What's your plan? I need to get access to the lower tunnels. I can't move through them alone, but you could help me. I can use my drone to map the area while you guide the path. He shook his head slowly. That's dangerous. Those tunnels were sealed for a reason. So was the signal, Lily replied. But it's still calling. Ethan stared at her for a moment, then sighed again. Fine. But if we get caught, it's your idea. Lily smiled faintly. I can live with that. They began preparing that night. Ethan gathered his portable scanners and maintenance passes. Lily reprogrammed her exploration drone, naming it Scout. She attached a small light to the front and loaded mapping software into its system. Together, they would explore from a safe distance at first. If the drone confirmed stability, they would go deeper. Hours passed as they planned. Lily worked with quiet focus, her fingers gliding across the control pad. For the first time in years, she felt alive. not just existing but living for a purpose that mattered. When the colony's morning lights rose again, Ethan returned with a map of the maintenance shafts. "There's an old access hatch behind the power plant," he said. "It connects to the lower tunnels. Nobody uses it anymore." "Perfect," Lily said. "We'll start there." Before they left, she saved all her recordings to a secure drive. She had learned not to trust the colony officials. If they found out what she was doing, they might try to stop her. Strange discoveries had a way of disappearing in Paralyzed 9. Later that evening, as the twin suns set behind the horizon, Lily and Ethan made their way toward the power plant. The air was cold, and the metallic smell of machinery filled their noses. They reached the old access hatch hidden behind a stack of supply crates. Ethan used his code card to unlock it. The metal door opened with a long, tired groan. A rush of stale air came out, dry and heavy. The tunnel beyond was dark, its walls covered in dust. Ethan shone his light inside, revealing a narrow passage that sloped downward. Lily powered up her drone. "Scout, start recording," she commanded. The small machine floated forward, its light cutting through the darkness. The tunnel went on farther than they expected. The walls bore marks, scratches, deep and strange, as if something had clawed at them long ago. "Ethan," Lily whispered, "these aren't tool marks." He swallowed hard. "Then what made them?" The drone moved farther ahead. For a moment the camera flickered, then cleared again. A faint blue glow appeared at the end of the tunnel, soft, like breathing light. Lily's heart raced. "The signal's coming from there," she said softly. Ethan looked at her, uneasy. "You sure you want to keep going?" "Yes," she whispered. "Whatever's down there deserves to be heard." They moved slowly forward, the air growing colder with each meter. The voice on her receiver grew stronger, still broken, still pleading. "Help," it said again, echoing through the tunnel. Lily's hands trembled as she whispered, "We hear you." The tunnel stretched deeper than Lily and Ethan had expected. The air was heavy, filled with dust that shimmered faintly under the drone's light. Every few steps, the sound of their breathing echoed off the metal walls, reminding them how far they were from the surface. The deeper they went, the colder it became, as if the warmth of the colony above couldn't reach this forgotten place. Lily sat in her hover chair, its magnetic treads gripping the floor. The machine hummed softly as it followed Ethan's light. Her drone floated ahead, scanning each turn and sending images to her display screen. The tunnel looked ancient, walls reinforced with old alloys, panels rusted with time. Symbols were etched into the metal, not in any language Lily recognized. "What do you think those mean?" Ethan asked, brushing his hand against one of the carvings. "I don't know," Lily said. "They don't match any mining symbols. They look older." The sound of the signal pulsed faintly in her headset, still repeating that single word. "Help." It was stronger now, clearer. The closer they went, the more real it felt. Like the voice wasn't just inside the device, but echoing inside her mind. They came to a large chamber door, half buried under rubble. The drone's sensors flashed a warning. Unstable structure detected. Ethan crouched beside the door, inspecting the cracks. "This door hasn't been opened in decades," he said. "But the signal's definitely coming from behind it." Lily watched the scanner readings. "Can you open it?" "Maybe," he said. "If I reroute the power from my suit's generator, I can charge the old mechanism. But it's risky. If it shorts, the tunnel might collapse." Lily looked at the screen, then at Ethan. "Do it." He hesitated. "Lily, if we came this far, we can't stop now." Her voice was calm but firm. Ethan sighed, then connected his generator cables to the door's ancient power slot. Sparks flickered as energy surged through the metal. The door groaned, its locking system grinding slowly. The floor trembled under their feet. Dust fell from the ceiling, and Lily's heart pounded in her chest. Then, with a final crack, the door opened slightly, just enough for the drone to slip through. The chamber beyond was vast and dark. The air that drifted out was cold, carrying a faint metallic smell, like old machinery and burnt stone. "Scout light on," Lily commanded. The drone's light flickered to life, revealing part of the chamber. Strange shapes lined the walls, massive, curved structures that looked like ribs of some great creature, fused with metal. And there, in the center, something moved. Ethan took a step back. "Lily, there's something alive in there." Lily's pulse quickened. She moved her chair closer to the doorway, peering into the shadows. At first, she thought it was a machine, a huge shape bound by thick metal chains. But then it shifted, slowly, like it was breathing. The drone light swept over its body. It wasn't a machine. It was a creature. Scales like molten silver, wings folded tightly against its sides, and eyes that glowed faintly with blue fire. The chains dug deep into its limbs, connecting to energy pylons on the floor. Lily's breath caught. "It's a dragon." Ethan stared, speechless. "That's impossible." But the creature moved again, its voice whispering in their minds. Not through the speakers this time, but directly into their thoughts. "Help me." Lily gasped softly. "It's telepathic." The dragon's eyes opened fully, shining brighter now. It looked at them, not with anger, but with exhaustion. Its voice was deep, slow, and heavy with pain. "You heard my call," it said. "Please, release me." Lily could barely find her voice. "Who did this to you?" The dragon's head lowered, chains clinking as it moved. "Humans," it whispered. "Long ago, they came here. They took my strength and left me to die." Ethan's mouth went dry. "That can't be true. The colony's only been here for 100 years. The dragon's gaze turned toward him. "Not your colony, your kind. Before the stars had names." Lily's mind raced. The idea was impossible, yet the evidence was right in front of her. The creature was ancient, maybe older than human space travel itself. She felt a strange mix of fear and sorrow. Whatever it was, it had suffered alone for longer than she could imagine. The signal device on her wrist beeped softly, matching the rhythm of the dragon's faint heartbeat. She looked at the chains, glowing with blue light, humming with power. They weren't made of ordinary metal. Energy flowed through them, feeding into the pylons that surrounded the creature. "Ethan," she said quietly, "these chains, they're still active. They're draining it." Ethan crouched beside one of the pylons, examining it closely. "This isn't standard tech. It's alien. But someone modified it with human components. Someone knew it was here." "Who?" Lily asked. He shook his head. "No idea. But whoever it was, they didn't want anyone finding it." The dragon's voice filled the chamber again, softer now. "Please, free me. My strength is gone. I cannot break these chains." Lily looked into its eyes. There was no hate there, only pain and a deep, ancient sadness. She felt her own voice tremble. "We'll help you," she said. "I promise." Ethan looked at her sharply. "Lily, wait. We don't even know what it is capable of. What if it's dangerous?" Lily turned her eyes toward him. "If you were chained down here for centuries, wouldn't you sound dangerous too?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Fair point." The drone circled the room, scanning everything. The readings showed strange energy patterns, unknown materials, and a faint pulse, the dragon's life force. It was fading. Lily reached out her hand toward the creature, though there was still distance between them. "We heard you," she whispered. "You're not alone anymore." The dragon blinked slowly, its gaze softening. "Then hope still lives among humans." As they stood there, surrounded by silence and ancient machinery, Lily knew one thing for certain. This discovery would change everything. Not just for her or for the colony, but for all of humanity. Lily could not take her eyes off the creature. The dragon's scales shimmered faintly in the dim light, catching every flicker from her drone's beam. The surface of each scale looked metallic, like forged silver mixed with living skin. It was both beautiful and terrifying. The creature was clearly in pain, its wings folded close to its body and its breathing shallow. Every breath made the chains around it glow brighter, feeding off its energy. Ethan kept his flashlight trained on the walls, searching for control panels or power conduits. The air felt charged, almost electric. "Lily," he said softly, "this place isn't just old. It's ancient tech, but someone's been maintaining it. These power nodes are still active." Lily turned her chair toward one of the nearby pylons. The light pulsed in rhythm with the dragon's breathing, as if it were draining his energy and turning it into power. "He's trapped inside a generator," she whispered. "They're using him like a living battery." The dragon's eyes opened again. They glowed faintly blue, reflecting both strength and sorrow. His voice entered their minds, deeper and clearer now. "You understand. They feared me. They wanted power. They chained me to this place so that their cities could rise." Lily felt her throat tighten. "Who were they?" The dragon paused before answering. "Humans, your ancestors, perhaps. They came from the stars long ago. They took what they wanted and left nothing but ruins. When they found me, they saw a weapon, not a being." Ethan looked uneasy. "If that's true, then this could be one of the oldest records of human contact with another species." Lily nodded slowly. "And one of the darkest." The dragon stirred weakly, chains scraping against the floor. "I do not hate your kind," he said. "I waited, believing one day someone would hear my call. Someone who could see me not as a monster, but as life." Lily felt tears rise in her eyes. She reached toward the chains, though she could not touch them. "I hear you," she whispered. "We both do." Ethan checked the readings on his wrist scanner. "The energy in these pylons is dangerous. If we cut them without understanding the system, it could kill him or us." "Then we'll understand it," Lily said. Her voice was steady now. "We'll find a way." She moved her drone closer to the control panel embedded in the floor. The ancient screen flickered to life, symbols appearing across its surface. The interface was alien but strangely familiar. Lines of text-formed patterns she could partially recognize, mathematical codes, energy flow diagrams, command inputs. Her eyes moved quickly, tracing the structure. "This isn't random," she murmured. "It's written in hybrid code, some human, some not. Someone modified it after the original builders left." Ethan frowned. "Modified it? By who?" Lily hesitated. "The Colony Corporation." The markings matched their early research files. They must have discovered this chamber years ago and kept it secret. The realization made her stomach turn. The colony's power systems were advanced, too advanced for a small frontier settlement. What if their entire power grid was fueled by this creature's suffering? The dragon's voice returned, softer now. "They came here once more. They said they would free me, but they lied. They built new chains, stronger ones. I could feel their fear." Lily felt a deep ache inside. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I didn't know." He looked at her gently. "You know now." Ethan moved closer to one of the chains. The metal hummed faintly when he touched it with a sensor. "It's pulling his life force directly. The chains act like energy conduits. If we shut off the pylons, we might weaken the colony's main reactor. Everything above could go dark." Lily didn't hesitate. "Then it goes dark." Ethan stared at her. "Lily, that would shut down life support, defense systems, everything. You could destroy the colony." She met his eyes. "Then maybe the colony needs to be reminded what it's built on." The dragon's head turned slowly toward her, and his eyes softened. "You would do this for me? For one who is not your kind?" "Yes," Lily said. "Because you didn't deserve this. No one does." The dragon let out a slow, rumbling sound, something between a sigh and a growl. "You are different from them," he said. "You are small, fragile, yet your spirit burns bright. You remind me of the stars I once guarded." Ethan glanced at her drone's readings again. "Lily, the energy is unstable. The more we talk to him, the stronger the current gets. It's like he's reacting to us." Lily's eyes widened. "Or maybe to hope." The dragon shifted again, light rippling through his scales. The glow from the pylons flickered. For the first time, the balance of power seemed to change. The chains no longer just taking energy, but struggling to hold it. He was regaining strength. "Lily, step back." Ethan warned. The chamber shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The dragon's wings twitched, their tips scraping against the walls. His voice boomed inside their minds, filled with both agony and power. I remember the sky. Then, just as suddenly, the light dimmed again. The energy readings dropped back to normal. The dragon lay still, exhausted. Lily's heart was pounding. She looked at him, her voice trembling. We'll come back, she said. We'll find a way to set you free. He nodded slowly. Be careful, human. The ones above, they will not allow it. They will know what you have seen. Ethan helped Lily turn her chair back toward the tunnel. The air behind them felt heavy with silence and sadness. As they moved away, the dragon's final words echoed faintly in their minds. Do not forget me. When they emerged from the chamber, the tunnel seemed darker than before. Lily didn't speak for a long time. Her thoughts were filled with the image of those blue eyes, the weight of chains, and the truth about what their colony had done. For the first time in her life, she didn't just want to decode a mystery. She wanted to change it. Lily couldn't sleep after returning from the tunnels. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the dragon's face, the chains, and the faint blue glow of his eyes. The sound of his voice still echoed in her head, deep, calm, and full of sadness. She sat by her desk, listening to the soft hum of her computer, while the colony outside rested under the twin moons. Ethan had gone back to his quarters, exhausted. He had told her they needed to wait, to think about what they had seen before taking any action. But Lily couldn't wait. Something about the dragon's voice had touched her heart. She felt his pain as if it were her own. He had been alone for centuries, forgotten and used. She knew what it was like to feel trapped, unable to move, unable to change your fate. She opened her files again and replayed the recordings. The signal was still active, but weaker now, like the dragon was fading again. Hold on, she whispered to the screen. I'll come back. I promise. The next morning, she went to see Ethan. He was working in the maintenance bay, fixing a damaged power drone. We need to go back, she said, her voice steady. He looked up at her, tired and cautious. Lily, I know what you're thinking, but we barely made it out last time. The tunnels could collapse any second. I don't care, she replied. He's dying, Ethan. Those chains are killing him. Ethan wiped his hands on a cloth and sighed. And what exactly do you expect us to do? We don't even understand the technology down there. If we start cutting cables, we could blow up half the colony. Then we'll learn, Lily said firmly. We have to. We're the only ones who know he's there. Ethan stared at her for a long moment, then shook his head with a small smile. You're impossible, you know that? Maybe, she said softly. But I'm right. He laughed quietly. You always think you're right. This time, she didn't argue. They spent the next few days secretly studying the colony's old power archives. Ethan hacked into maintenance logs while Lily analyzed the energy signatures from the pylons. The deeper they looked, the more disturbing it became. The colony's power grid had a secondary energy source, one that matched the dragon's life readings perfectly. It confirmed their worst fear. The dragon's suffering was powering Orelise 9. Ethan, Lily said one night, staring at the data. They've known about him for years. The corporation built this place around him. Ethan clenched his fists. That means the governor's in on it. Everyone at the top must know. Lily looked up at him. Then we can't trust anyone. They planned their return in secret. Ethan prepared stronger tools for cutting the chains, and Lily upgraded her drone with new sensors. They stored supplies and packed communication jammers in case the colony's system detected their movement underground. Every sound, every whisper of metal, felt dangerous. If anyone found out what they were doing, it could mean prison or worse. When they were ready, they waited until night. The colony's corridors were silent, and the distant hum of generators echoed faintly through the walls. They moved quickly toward the hidden access tunnel behind the power plant. The hatch opened with a soft hiss, and they descended again into the dark. The tunnels were colder this time. The air felt heavier, almost alive. Lily's drone hovered ahead, its light reflecting off old steel and cracked stone. When they reached the great chamber, the dragon was still there, unmoving except for the slow rise and fall of his chest. "Kael'rith," Lily whispered. "We came back." The dragon's eyes opened slightly. "You returned." His voice echoed softly in their minds. "I thought perhaps it was a dream." "It wasn't," she said. "We're here to help." Ethan unpacked the tools, setting up a portable generator. "We need to understand how these chains are connected. If we disable the wrong one, it could kill him." Lily nodded and used her drone to scan the bindings. The readings showed that each chain carried energy in one direction, from the dragon to the pylons. "If we reverse the current," she said, "it could weaken the bindings without hurting him." Ethan frowned. "That's a big if." "We don't have time for small ones," she replied. Kael'rith watched them quietly. "Your courage reminds me of the first humans who walked these stars," he said, "before greed took their hearts." Lily paused, looking up at him. "You said you protected this planet once. What did you mean?" Kael'rith's eyes dimmed. "Long before your people built their machines, I guarded the skies of Orelise. I was part of an order that watched over life among the stars. When humans came, they were lost travelers. I gave them shelter, but their leaders wanted power. They feared what they could not control." Lily listened closely. His voice carried sorrow that felt endless. "They chained you because they were afraid." "Yes," he said softly. "Fear is a chain stronger than metal." Ethan interrupted quietly. "We should focus on this section first. The energy flow is weaker here. If we cut one link, it might not trigger a full collapse." Lily agreed. She moved her drone closer and used its manipulator arm to connect wires to the control panel. "Ready?" she asked. "Ready," Ethan replied. "Scout. Reverse current." The drone beeped and sent a charge through the wire. The chamber lights flickered, and a spark of energy shot through the chain. Kael'rith's body tensed, a low rumble echoing through the room. Lily held her breath. Then the hum faded, and the light on that chain dimmed. "It worked," Ethan whispered. "The current's weaker." Kael'rith let out a slow, deep breath. "I can feel it," he said. "One chain lessens." Lily smiled faintly. "We'll get the rest." But before they could continue, a sharp alarm blared in Ethan's communicator. He froze. "Someone's monitoring the power grid. They know we're here." Lily's heart sank. "Then we have to move faster." The dragon lifted his head slightly, eyes glowing brighter. "Go," he said. "They will come for you. I will endure." Lily shook her head. "We're not leaving you again." Kael'rith's voice grew stronger. "You cannot save me if you are captured. Go now, while the shadows still hide you." Ethan grabbed her arm. "He's right, Lily. We'll come back. We have to be smart about this." She hesitated, tears forming in her eyes, then nodded reluctantly. As they turned to leave, Kael'rith's voice echoed one last time. "Do not lose hope, child of Earth. Even the smallest light can break the deepest chain." As they escaped into the tunnels, the sound of alarms grew louder above them. Lily looked back one last time, her heart heavy but determined. She had made a promise, and she intended to keep it. Lily couldn't shake the fear that someone knew what she and Ethan had done. Ever since their return from the tunnels, she felt eyes on her wherever she went. The colony had become quieter in strange ways. Guards near the power plant doubled, restricted areas were sealed, and rumors spread about energy fluctuations. But no one seemed to know the real reason behind it. Ethan had stopped answering her calls for 2 days. He said he was working on something, but Lily could tell from his tone that he was worried. She spent those days reviewing the data from the dragon's chains. Every pattern confirmed the same thing. The colony's power grid was tied directly to Kael'rith's life energy. Every light, every warm home, every machine, all of it ran on his pain. It made her sick to her stomach. One evening, she rolled toward the observation deck, needing to clear her mind. The sky above Orelise 9 was dark green, glowing faintly with the gas clouds that hung across the planet's upper atmosphere. The stars looked distant, cold, and uncaring. She thought of Kael'thas's words. Fear is a chain stronger than metal. Maybe he had been right. Humans had feared what they didn't understand, and now that fear had built an entire world on his suffering. Lily. Ethan's voice startled her. He approached quietly, carrying a small data core. I found something. She turned to face him. What is it? He sat beside her and lowered his voice. The governor's archives. I broke into the mainframe. The colony administration has known about Kael'thas since day one. He wasn't discovered, he was captured. They designed the power plant around his chamber. Lily's breath caught. That means they used him intentionally. Ethan nodded grimly. They covered it up. The first settlers found him under the planet's surface. The corporation saw a source of endless energy. They sealed him down there, chained him, and fed off his power. Every leader since then has kept it secret. She clenched her fists. How could they do this? Because it works, Ethan said bitterly. Because it's easy to ignore something you can't see. Lily looked down, her heart heavy. We can't let it go on. He hesitated. If we expose this, the corporation won't let us live. They'll silence us before it reaches the public. Then we don't expose it, Lily said quietly. We end it. Ethan looked at her, unsure whether she was serious, but the look in her eyes told him she was. She wasn't afraid anymore. You're talking about shutting down the entire power grid, he said slowly. That could destroy the colony. She nodded. Better to rebuild than to live on suffering. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. Then he sighed and rubbed his face. You realize this is suicide, right? Lily gave a faint smile. Maybe, but I'm done being afraid. They spent the next day preparing in secret. Ethan mapped the power conduits while Lily created a bypass code to override the colony's security network. They worked in silence, both knowing that what they were doing could never be undone. Lily's hands trembled slightly as she typed, but she never stopped. Every moment brought her closer to Kael'thas's freedom. At night, they met in the maintenance bay, where old supply crates hid their equipment. The air smelled of dust and metal. Once we start, Ethan said, we'll have about 15 minutes before the system locks us out. After that, it's up to whatever happens underground. Lily nodded. 15 minutes is enough. They exchanged a look, one of quiet understanding. Then they moved. The tunnels welcomed them like a heartbeat, the hum of energy louder than before. The air felt hotter, as though the planet itself was warning them. When they reached Kael'thas's chamber, his eyes were already open. He had been waiting. You return again. His voice filled their minds. And you bring purpose. We found the truth, Lily said. They've been using you to power the colony. All this time. Kael'thas lowered his head slightly. I have known. I feel their hunger in every spark of pain. We're here to stop it, Ethan said. We can disconnect the main grid, but it'll take everything offline. The colony won't survive without power. Kael'thas's eyes glowed faintly. Then your kind must learn again how to survive without cruelty. Lily looked at him, her heart pounding. Will it kill you if we cut the flow? Perhaps, he said softly. But my spirit has already endured more than death. There was no turning back now. Ethan activated the generator while Lily connected her neural link to the colony's mainframe through her drone. The system resisted immediately, red warnings flashing across her visor. It's locked, she said. They're trying to stop me. Hold it together, Ethan shouted. Sparks flew as he pried open a panel, exposing glowing cables. The room vibrated as power surged violently through the walls. Kael'thas groaned, his body trembling under the chains. Lily gritted her teeth and forced the override command through. Come on, she whispered. Break. The ground shook violently. One of the chains cracked with a deafening sound, glowing red before dimming completely. Kael'thas let out a roar that echoed through the tunnels, shaking dust from the ceiling. The light from his scales grew brighter, bathing the chamber in blue fire. Ethan stared in awe. It's working. You're freeing him. But before they could continue, Lily's screen flashed. Intrusion detected. Colony security had found them. We have to hurry, she said. They're coming. Kael'rith lifted his head. You risk much for one such as I. Not for you, Lily said quietly. For what's right. Kael'rith's eyes softened. Then humanity still has light within. The ground trembled again. Alarms blared through the tunnels as red lights flashed. Ethan pulled Lily's chair closer. We need to go now. If the tunnel collapses, we're done. Lily looked at Kael'rith one last time. We'll come back. I promise. Kael'rith bowed his head. And I shall wait, as I have always waited. As they fled, the tunnel behind them began to crumble. Sparks lit the darkness, and Lily could feel the vibration of the dragon's roar through the stone. The chains were weakening, but time was running out. Above them, the colony's power flickered, dimming for the first time in its history. And somewhere deep beneath the planet, a dragon began to dream of freedom again. Lily and Ethan didn't sleep after their last trip underground. The images of the dragon's eyes, glowing through the dark, stayed with them. They both knew there was no turning back now. The colony's systems were on high alert after the power fluctuations. Security teams had been stationed near the lower tunnels, and the governor had issued a lockdown notice. Everyone was told it was routine maintenance. But Lily knew better. She sat in her room, staring at the message from Ethan. Asterisk, tonight. Final attempt. Bring everything. Asterisk, her hands shook slightly as she packed her bag, tools, data chips, and a small transmitter. She looked out the window one last time at the lights of Paralyzed 9. The city looked peaceful from here, but she knew it was built on pain. It didn't deserve that peace, not yet. When she reached the meeting point, Ethan was already waiting near the old service shaft. He wore a dark jacket and carried a heavy tool case. You sure you want to do this? He asked quietly. Lily gave a small nod. I have to. We both do. He smiled faintly. That's what I thought you'd say. They entered the tunnels again. The path was rougher than before. Part of the structure had collapsed after their last interference. Their flashlights cut through the dust and shadows. The deeper they went, the stronger the humming sound grew. It was as if the planet itself was breathing. When they reached the chamber, Kael'rith was awake. His massive form shimmered in faint blue light. The air felt charged around him. His eyes opened as they approached, and his deep voice filled the cavern. You return, even after the warnings. Lily stopped her chair near him. We made a promise. Kael'rith looked at her for a long moment. Promises are fragile things among your kind. Not this one, she said. Ethan began setting up the power converters and connecting wires to the pylons. We need to shut down the main links to the colony grid. It'll drain their reserves fast, but it's the only way to break the energy loop. Kael'rith's chains rattled softly. The pain will be great, for both me and this world. Lily looked up at him. Then we'll endure it together. The dragon nodded slowly, his gaze softening. Very well. They worked quickly, guided by the data Lily had prepared. Each chain was connected to an anchor embedded deep in the rock, pulsing with power. Ethan climbed across the metallic floor, carefully attaching the override clamps. The whole structure trembled with energy, as if resisting their efforts. Suddenly, Lily's comm device beeped sharply. Unauthorized activity detected in the lower tunnels, said a cold, automated voice. Security en route. Ethan cursed under his breath. They're faster than I expected. We have to finish, Lily said firmly. Keep going. Minutes passed in tense silence except for the hum of machinery. Sparks flew as Ethan cut into the first conduit. A bright wave of energy rippled through the air, making Lily's hair stand on end. Kael'rith groaned, his body shaking as the chain began to glow white-hot. Lily gripped her armrests tightly, watching in fear and awe. It's working, Ethan shouted. The chain's destabilizing. Kael'rith's voice echoed in their minds, filled with both agony and relief. Freedom has a taste of fire. The chain shattered in a burst of light, scattering molten fragments across the floor. Kael'rith's body slumped forward, breathing heavily. Lily's heart pounded. One down, she said. 5 more to go. But the moment of victory didn't last. A loud metallic thud echoed through the tunnels. Then another. Security drones had arrived, their red lights cutting through the shadows. "Lily, we've got company," Ethan yelled, grabbing a tool and smashing one of the drones as it fired a stun beam. Lily activated her drone's defense mode, sending an EMP pulse that fried the circuits of 2 others. Sparks filled the air. "Keep working," she shouted. Ethan ran to the next chain and began rerouting the power again. The floor shook violently as the energy surged. Kael'rith roared, the sound deafening, echoing through every tunnel. The remaining chains glowed, straining under the stress. "Almost there," Ethan cried, his voice barely audible over the roar of collapsing metal. Kael'rith's voice filled their minds again, stronger than before. "You risk everything for one creature." "Why?" Lily shouted back. "Because you're not just a creature, you're alive. You've been suffering for us, and that's not what humanity should be." Kael'rith's eyes blazed with light. "Then you are not like the others." The third chain cracked apart, releasing a wave of energy so strong it knocked both of them to the ground. Lily's vision blurred. She could feel the heat on her skin, hear the alarms echoing through the tunnels. The colony above was losing power fast. Ethan stumbled toward her. "We can't take much more of this. The reactor's going critical." Lily's eyes met his. "Then we finish it." With shaking hands, she directed her drone to overload the final relay. The signal surged through the network, sending arcs of lightning through every chain. Kael'rith's roar filled the chamber once more, and the entire floor split open with a blinding flash. For a moment, there was only light, pure, brilliant, and endless. Then silence. When the light faded, the chains were gone. Kael'rith stood free, his massive wings unfurling for the first time in centuries. His scales shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting the faint light of the tunnels. Lily stared in awe, tears in her eyes. "You're free." Kael'rith looked down at her, his voice softer now. "You have given me back the sky, and for that, I owe you more than words." Before she could answer, a distant rumble shook the ground. The tunnels were collapsing. "We need to get out," Ethan shouted. Kael'rith's gaze turned upward. "Go. I will hold the path for you." Lily shook her head. "We're not leaving you." He let out a deep, rumbling sound that almost sounded like a laugh. "You already have." With a sweep of his wings, Kael'rith sent a gust of air that lifted debris aside and opened a path toward the exit. "Run, children of Earth," he thundered. "Your world awaits." Ethan grabbed Lily's chair and pushed her forward as rocks fell around them. They barely made it through the passage before the tunnel collapsed behind them with a roar. When they looked back, all they saw was dust and the faint blue light fading in the distance. As they emerged into the cold night air, the sky above flickered. The colony's lights were dying. But in the horizon, Lily saw something else. A bright blue glow rising into the clouds, like a living flame taking flight. Kael'rith was free. The night sky over Paralyzed 9 glowed with strange colors. The power grid was collapsing, and the once bright lights of the colony were fading one by one. People ran through the streets, confused and scared, not knowing that far below them, a dragon had just broken his chains. The energy that had kept the colony alive for years was gone, and everything was beginning to fail. Lily and Ethan hid in an abandoned service tunnel outside the colony walls. Their clothes were covered in dust, and the air was still thick with smoke from the explosion underground. The ground trembled occasionally, like the planet itself was groaning in pain. Lily's hands were shaking as she tried to stabilize the small power pack that kept her chair running. Ethan paced back and forth, his voice trembling with exhaustion. "We did it. We actually did it," he said, almost laughing. "He's free." Lily looked at him with tired eyes. "Yes, but look at what's happening. The colony's dying." He stopped and stared at the horizon, where the faint lights of Paralyzed flickered like dying stars. "I know," he said quietly, "but maybe it deserves to start over." They sat in silence for a while, the only sound the faint hum of wind through the tunnels. Lily felt a deep ache in her chest. She had freed Kael'rith, but at what cost? Thousands of lives depended on the energy that dragon had provided. People would suffer now. Some might die. She wanted to believe it was worth it, but the guilt burned inside her. Ethan broke the silence. We need to get to the surface entrance. Maybe we can warn the control center. Tell them to evacuate before the reactors go critical. Lily nodded, though her heart wasn't sure anymore. Let's move. They made their way through the tunnels, navigating by the dim blue light of Lily's drone. The walls dripped with condensation, and faint tremors shook the ground. When they finally reached the outer access door, Ethan stopped. The main reactor's too close to failing, he said after checking his scanner. If we don't redirect the energy soon, the whole core could blow. Lily frowned. You can fix it? He hesitated. Maybe, but it's going to be bad. How bad? Bad enough that we might not make it out. She didn't answer. Her eyes met his, steady and calm. Then we finish what we started. They climbed through the access shaft toward the reactor control station. The air grew hotter with every meter, and the sound of alarms echoed through the narrow corridors. When they reached the control room, the sight was terrifying. Panels sparking, warning lights flashing red, and the massive energy core pulsing violently in the center of the chamber. Ethan ran to the controls and began typing frantically. The overload's accelerating. The grid's feedback loop is pushing power back into the core. We only have a few minutes. Lily looked around, thinking fast. If we redirect the flow, can we vent it somewhere? He nodded slowly. Yeah, maybe through the old mining conduits. But someone has to stay here to keep the manual override open. She understood immediately. You mean someone has to die? He didn't answer. His silence was enough. Lily rolled forward. Then I'll do it. Ethan's head shot up. No, absolutely not. Ethan, no, he shouted, slamming his hand against the console. You've already risked everything. I'm not letting you do this too. She looked at him calmly. Ethan, you can still get people out. You can help them rebuild. But I'm the one who started this. It has to end with me. He shook his head, his eyes filled with anger and pain. You're not dying for this. Not for me, not for him. Lily reached out and touched his hand. I'm not dying for anyone. I'm doing what's right. He stared at her for a long time, then slowly nodded, tears in his eyes. You're impossible. She smiled faintly. You said that before. Ethan took a deep breath, then uploaded the redirection code to her drone. This will give you control of the venting process. Once it starts, you'll have about 30 seconds before the reactor blows. Understood. He hesitated at the door. Lily, go, she said softly. Please. He swallowed hard, nodded, and disappeared down the corridor. Lily turned her focus to the console. The alarms grew louder. The reactor's glow filled the room with blinding light. Her hands moved quickly across the screen, rerouting the power toward the mining tunnels. The ground shook violently beneath her. Come on, she whispered. Hold together. Suddenly, a deep voice echoed in her mind. Lily. Her heart stopped. Kael'rith? Yes, the dragon said. I feel the storm you are trapped within. I have to stop the reactor, she said quickly. It's going to destroy everything. Then let me help, Kael'rith said. Our fates are bound by more than chance. Before she could respond, the entire chamber glowed blue. Through the ceiling's cracks, a radiant light poured in, Kael'rith's energy. The dragon's power flowed into the reactor, stabilizing it just enough for Lily to complete the sequence. She redirected the final surge toward the old conduits. Now, she shouted. A blinding wave of light burst from the core, shooting upward through the tunnels and out into the open sky. The explosion ripped through the mining fields, sending clouds of glowing dust into the air. For a moment, it looked like a sunrise. Ethan, outside on the ridge, shielded his eyes as the light washed over him. The colony shook, then fell silent. The alarms stopped. The wind blew softly through the broken walls. It was over. Inside the control chamber, Lily's vision blurred. Her hands fell to her lap. The air was calm now, and she felt an odd warmth in her chest. Through the haze, she heard Kael'thas's voice one last time. "You have done more than free me. You have freed your kind from its blindness." She smiled weakly. "I just wanted to do the right thing. And you did, brave heart." The light around her faded to darkness. Hours later, Ethan returned to the ruins of the control chamber. He found her there, silent but peaceful, her face calm. The reactor was cold now, the danger gone. Outside, the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, painting the sky gold and blue. High above, a shadow passed across the light, vast wings gliding through the morning air. Kael'thas was watching over them. The morning after the explosion was quiet. The colony of Paralyzed 9 lay in ruins, its once bright towers now dark and broken. Smoke drifted lazily into the sky, mixing with the golden light of dawn. What had been a bustling home for thousands was now silent, except for the faint sound of wind passing through shattered glass. Ethan walked slowly through the wreckage. His steps were heavy, his clothes torn and covered in ash. He had survived, though he didn't understand how. The ground had opened up when the reactor blew, but the shockwave had thrown him clear before everything went dark. Now he was alone. He carried a small pack with emergency supplies and a simple data recorder, the only working device he could find. He wanted to document what happened, not for glory, but so someone might understand one day why the colony fell and why one girl had given her life to save it. He stopped when he reached the entrance to the underground tunnels. The blast had sealed most of them, but one narrow passage remained open. He swallowed hard and stepped inside. The deeper he went, the darker it became, until only the faint glow of his wrist lamp lit the way. When he reached the control chamber, the air felt still. The walls were blackened, and the smell of burned metal hung heavy. In the center of the room sat Lily's chair. It was tipped slightly to the side, covered in dust, but untouched by fire. She looked peaceful, her eyes closed, as if she had only fallen asleep. Ethan knelt beside her. "Hey," he whispered. "It's done. You did it." He stayed there for a long time, not saying much, just sitting in the silence. The weight in his chest was unbearable. He had lost people before, friends, family, but this was different. Lily had been the heart of their mission, the one who had believed that even in a broken world, something good could still be done. After a while, he reached into his pack and pulled out a small metal pendant. It was hers, a charm shaped like a small planet with tiny wings. She used to keep it on her console as a reminder of the dreams she had when she could still walk. He placed it gently in her hands. "You always said people could change," he murmured. "Maybe you were right. Maybe we needed this." The ground trembled faintly, and a gust of warm air moved through the room. Ethan looked up, startled. A soft blue light flickered near the ceiling, like the reflection of distant flames. The air shimmered, and for a moment, he thought he saw the faint outline of wings. Then he heard it, a voice deep and calm, not in his ears but in his mind. "She is not gone," said Kael'thas. Ethan's breath caught. "Where are you?" "Above," the dragon replied. "She rests, but her spirit lingers. I feel her warmth in the wind, her strength in the light." Ethan stood slowly. "You saved us," he said. "You saved everyone." "No," Kael'thas said softly. "She did. I only gave what was asked of me." The light around the room grew stronger for a moment, then began to fade. "What will you do now?" Ethan asked. "I will watch," Kael'thas replied. "Your kind has lost much, but perhaps in loss, you will remember what it means to live." Ethan closed his eyes. "I wish she could see this." "She can," the dragon said. "In every sunrise that follows, she will be there." Then the light faded completely, leaving only the hum of the wind. Ethan stayed a while longer, then finally stood. He knew he couldn't stay here forever. There were still survivors out there, people who needed help. Lily wouldn't want him to stop now. She would want him to rebuild, to carry the story forward. When he reached the surface, the sun had fully risen. The sky was a brilliant shade of gold, and the air felt warm and clean for the first time in years. The reactors were gone, but somehow the planet's energy fields were stabilizing again. The sky no longer shimmered with pollution. Life was beginning to return. Ethan found a small group of survivors near the old transport depot. They looked weak and frightened, but alive. When they saw him, they ran forward, asking questions all at once. He lifted his hands to calm them. "It's over," he said. "The dragon is free. The colony is gone. But we're still here. We can start again." The people listened quietly. Some cried. Others just stared at the horizon. Ethan helped them set up temporary shelters using the remaining materials. They shared food, water, and stories. As night fell, they lit a small fire and sat together under the stars. For the first time in years, the sky was clear. They could see the constellations that had once guided their ancestors across the stars. Ethan looked up at them and thought about Lily. Somewhere, beyond the clouds and the light, she was free too. He took out the recorder and pressed the button. "This is Ethan Cole," he began. "It's been 24 hours since the collapse of Paralyzed 9. The reactor is destroyed, but the world is healing. We've lost so much, but we're still human. And maybe that's what matters most." He paused, his voice soft. "To whoever finds this, remember her name, Lily Hart. She showed us what humanity could be." He ended the recording and set the device on the ground beside the fire. The flames reflected in his eyes as he whispered, "Goodbye, Lily." Far above the camp, a vast shadow moved across the stars. Two bright, golden eyes glowed in the darkness. Kael'rith flew silently through the night sky, circling once over the survivors before vanishing into the clouds. The people of Paralyzed would rebuild. They would remember the girl who freed the dragon and gave them back their future. And high above, the dragon would remember her, too. Years passed on Paralyzed 9. The world that had once been a hollow machine slowly began to breathe again. Plants grew over the ruins of the old colony, and clean water filled the rivers that had been dry for decades. Nature was healing what humans had broken. The people who survived the collapse built small villages from the remains of their once great city. They learned to live without the reactors, using solar energy and old tools to rebuild their lives. Ethan was older now. His hair had turned gray at the edges, and the scars on his hands were reminders of the day everything changed. He had become a leader of the new settlement, a quiet man who carried a heavy story. The children who were born after the collapse didn't know what the world had been like before. They grew up chasing light in the forests, laughing under the open sky. They called their home New Paralyzed. Every evening, Ethan walked to the ridge that overlooked the valley. From there, he could see the outlines of the old colony in the distance, buried beneath green hills and wildflowers. He always brought the same small metal pendant with him, the one that had belonged to Lily. It had become a symbol for everyone in New Paralyzed. They called it the Winged World, a reminder that even in darkness, there could be freedom. One evening, a young boy named Caleb joined him on the ridge. "Is it true?" the boy asked. "That a dragon saved us?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Yes, it's true. But it wasn't the dragon who saved us. It was someone braver than any of us." "Who?" Caleb asked, his eyes wide with wonder. "A girl named Lily Hart," Ethan said softly. "She was like you once, curious, full of questions. But she saw something others couldn't. She saw hope, even when everyone else saw only walls." Caleb thought for a moment. "Do you think the dragon is still out there?" Ethan looked at the sky. "I know he is." As if in answer, a distant sound echoed through the air. A low, deep roar that rolled across the mountains. People in the village stopped and looked up. For a moment, the clouds parted, and a vast shadow moved across the sunset. Golden light shimmered through enormous wings that glided silently over the valley. The dragon was there, just as he had always been. Kael'rith descended slowly, his form outlined by the evening sun. His scales glowed faintly, reflecting the colors of fire and sky. He did not come close to the village, but his presence filled the air with warmth and peace. The people watched in awe, their faces lit by wonder. Ethan felt tears sting his eyes. "He kept his promise," he whispered. "He's watching over us." The dragon circled once over the valley, then soared higher, disappearing into the clouds. The roar faded, leaving only silence and the golden glow of sunset. Later that night, the villagers gathered around the central fire. Ethan told them stories of the old world, of how the colony once used dragons as power sources, of how greed blinded humanity, and how one girl refused to let that be the end. He spoke of Lily's courage, of her kindness, and of the day she gave her life so others could live. When he finished, there was quiet. Then one of the elders spoke. "She showed us what it means to be human," the elder said. "To care, even when it costs everything." From that night on, the people of New Orleans began holding a small festival each year at sunset. They called it the Day of Wings. On that day, they would release bright lanterns into the sky, each shaped like a small dragon or a planet. The lights would drift upward, glowing softly against the darkening sky. Children laughed, adults sang, and everyone looked to the stars with hope. Ethan always stood at the edge of the crowd, watching the lanterns rise. Every year, one lantern would fly higher than the rest, a blue one shaped like a dragon's wing. No one ever knew who made it, but Ethan suspected the truth. Somewhere above, Kael'rith still watched, carrying the spirit of the girl who had freed him. Years later, when Ethan's time finally came, the people buried him beside the ridge where he always stood. They placed the winged world pendant in his hands. On the day of his passing, the sky filled with golden light again. The villagers looked up and saw a dragon soaring high above the mountains, its wings shining like a sunrise. They knew he had come to take his friend home. Generations passed, but the legend of Lily Hart never faded. Her story became part of the New World's history, told in schools, carved into stone, sung in songs around the fire. People spoke her name when they needed courage, when they faced darkness, or when they had to make hard choices. She became a symbol of the best of humanity. And high above the clouds, in the endless sky of Orleans 9, a great dragon still flew. He watched over the valleys, the rivers, and the forests. Sometimes, on quiet nights, villagers swore they could hear a voice in the wind, soft, calm, and full of warmth. "Do what's right," it said, "even when it's hard." The stars above Orleans shone brighter than ever, as if the universe itself remembered her. And in that light, both dragon and human found peace at last.